Hello once again, everybody, and thank you for joining me in the Bettor's Box. It's the BangTheBook.com's MLB betting podcast for Thursday, May 16th. I am your host, Adam Burke. This and every edition of the Bettor's Box presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB and the number 200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus up to $500 for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus up to $500 for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. Monday, Thursday format returns here with the Bettor's Box. I'm on the air on Thursday. I'll be on the air again on Monday with a new edition of the Monday Mailbag at Skating Tripods on Twitter or Adam at BangTheBook. Any questions for the mailbag? Also, Adam at BangTheBook.com if you want to get the notes from the shows. A lot of things I talk about, a lot of statistics that I discuss on the program here. Sometimes it's easier to see those in written form. So Adam at BangTheBook.com if you want to get on the list for the Bettor's Box notes. My picks and Tim's piece updated for today over at BangTheBook.com. We've got NBA picks and previews for the conference finals with the Raptors and the Bucks, also the Trailblazers and the Warriors. Parker Michaels still covering the NHL for us here as we're down to the Final Four in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We had our Preakness and PGA Championship pod yesterday with Brian Blessing. Still some relevance to that PGA Championship pod if you're able to do some in-tournament wagering. The second half of the full show was the Preakness breakdown, and I did break that down into two separate segments over on our Spreaker page, which also runs to Spotify. And if you only have time for the Preakness, that's available over at BangTheBook.com and on all of the podcast streaming sites that we're on, which is just about all of them at this point in time. We'll have a UFC show on Friday with Christian Pina to break down this weekend's UFC card. We got a lot of stuff going on over at BangTheBook.com, covering all the different sports. It's why we're your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information over at BangTheBook.com. All right, so before I dig into the regular format here of our show, I want to talk about Chase Field real quick. Got the chance to go out to Arizona, left Friday, came back Tuesday, spent some time out there with the wife. We saw Antelope Canyon, Sedona, the Grand Canyon. Really, really good trip for anybody that likes to see some different landscapes, likes to see some different scenery. A decent amount of driving, not a ton. It wasn't too bad at all whatsoever. Very cool areas out there in Arizona. But going to Chase Field on Monday night, got to see the Diamondbacks and the Pirates. We had the under in that game. That was blown up by the second inning. But Chase Field, really cool ballpark. I actually liked it quite a bit. I've been to Miller Park. I've been up to the Rogers Center in Toronto, although that was a long time ago that I was up there. I'm a big believer in baseball should be played outside, and it's weird for me to say that as somebody from Cleveland where obviously the weather sucks 9 months out of the year. But as a general rule, I'm a big fan of outdoor baseball, but I really liked Chase Field. Now, of course, the roof was open, picture-perfect day in Phoenix on Monday, but the concourse is air-conditioned, and it didn't feel as closed in as Miller Park does. I mean, obviously, I've become a fan of the Brewers with what they've been doing over the last few years. So I was very excited to go up to Miller Park, but it felt kind of stale. It felt very closed in. I didn't get that same feeling at Chase Field down there in Phoenix. Again, the concourse is air-conditioned, which certainly gets some more air flowing through the ballpark there. But lots of cool little areas, lots of little intricacies to the ballpark that I like. There's a very cool restaurant with a tremendous beer selection up in right field in the second deck with some great views. You got a view of the pool area from there. You can get a table out overlooking the ballpark. It's really, really nice area there. A lot of history. That's one thing I don't like as much about Progressive Field in Cleveland. I don't think that the Indians pay as much homage as they could to their history. It is a franchise that's been around a very, very long time. But I thought the Diamondbacks did a fantastic job with that. They've got a 20-year history museum out in right center field. Also, that's an excellent bathroom to use because nobody really knows about it. Hidden, clean, empty bathrooms are always nice at ballparks. That was a cool little thing there. But I really did enjoy the ballpark. The staff was terrific. The team shop is expansive and very, very nice. And also around the ballpark, not a ton of great areas from what I saw, being down there for about half the day. But Willie's Taco Joint is excellent. That's an easy walk from the ballpark. Mother Bunch Brewery down on 7th Street. They had a great happy hour menu. Citric Vibes IPA was a really good one. So, I went on a Monday night. I'm not sure what the area is like for crowded, crazy weeknight games or playoff games, but my Monday night experience was nice there at Chase Field. I enjoyed it, had a very good time, great trip, good to get away from things for a little while. But if you get the chance to head to Chase Field, highly recommend that. A lot of people seem to be taking advantage of that. A lot of Pirates fans were in town for the game. A lot of them seemingly Cole Tucker's family, who's a Phoenix native. But, Mother Bunch Brewery I'd recommend, and also Willie's Taco Joint would definitely recommend there as well. All right, so let's get into the traditional format here of the Bettor's Box. We'll go beyond the box score. Then we'll go down the lines. I'll give you a pick for tonight, and then I'll take a look at the weekend here at 4 series, 1 that begins tonight, 3 that begin tomorrow. One thing I do want to mention here in the Beyond the Box Score segment, getting back into it after some time away can be a challenge. I tried to do as much as I could while I was out of town. A lot of spotty internet in different places. Stayed at the Harrah's south of Phoenix, and they had really bad Wi-Fi, so wasn't able to keep up with things as much as I wanted to. At the same time, it was nice to get that mental break, that emotional break from the grind of the baseball season. But as far as getting back into it goes, and a lot of people are going to have this dilemma here with vacations coming up. You get the family vacations as we get to summer, graduations, bunch of different stuff taking up your time here. Box score study is an important thing to do, obviously. You want to make sure that you're up to date on what's been going on. You want to note those injuries. There were definitely some while I was gone that I had to catch up on. Injuries can play a very big role. Also, you want to see the odds. Take a look back at your odds screen. Look at the odds history. See what moved. See what didn't. But most importantly, take a look with fresh eyes. You think about it. I was gone Friday to Tuesday. So I essentially missed roughly 1 turn through the rotation for every team, depending on if they had Monday off or not. You don't really miss a whole lot in that time frame. You want to pay attention to injuries. You want to pay attention to bullpen usage for the last couple of days once you get back. But overall, I think it's good to just take a break. You don't have to wipe the slate clean because Major League Baseball has so many games. The sample size is so large that right back into the rhythm of things. I don't think that you need to panic trying to catch up on everything that you missed. Certainly being at the ballpark on Monday helped. I was able to, watch some scores and have some better internet there in downtown Phoenix. But again, taking a look with some fresh eyes. Just, go back to things and sort of look at them and say, okay, well, this is still what I expected it to be. Maybe regression hit while you were gone. Maybe you didn't. Or maybe it didn't, I should say. But because there's so much of a sample size for Major League Baseball, you don't have to kill yourself getting back into everything. You can do it as you need to. As these pitchers come back around to the rotation, as these teams maybe get a tougher matchup or something like that. So don't feel like you have to dive back in head first. I've kind of been feeling my way around here on Wednesday and Thursday. Started a little bit late with the recording of this podcast, for example, just because I'm trying to get back into the rhythms, trying to get back into my group. But again, not a whole lot changes because you've got, 12 to 15 plate appearances for hitters, maybe 5 or 6 innings for a starter, something like that. So you don't have to go balls to the wall to try and get back into things. Just do it at your leisure as those pitchers come back up in the rotation, stuff like that. So that's something I'm trying to do a better job of because in the past, I would hit the ground running. I'd be staring at all the StatCast data, all that type of thing. Just going back into it here with a clearer mindset, trying not to obsess over the start to the season or how things have gone recently. Just, fresh eyes, clear head with that mental break, getting away from everything. And this may be something I do sporadically. Maybe this will be something that I do here in the month of June for a couple days as well, or maybe in the month of July, something like that. Just because this is such a long season. I think it's 186 days the baseball season is with 162 games. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot that you have to take into account and consider day in and day out. So stepping completely away definitely is not a bad thing. Maybe a tough thing for the readers, and I know some were disappointed that I didn't do the show on Monday or didn't have the articles, but it's very important for your mental well-being and the well-being of your bankroll to step away, disconnect. And that was a nice thing about where my wife and I decided to go, is that, we had early mornings getting to the national parks that we were looking at. doing the tours and things that we were looking at, I didn't have time to do baseball. Maybe I would look at night if I could, or check the at-bat app and look at scores, something like that. But I was largely forced to disconnect because of the schedule that we were trying to keep, and because there was some spotty internet service for both my phone and then the shaky Wi-Fi as well. So I had to disconnect, and I think that's actually a positive for me here as we look to finish out May on a high note and hopefully carry things over into the month of June. All right, so let's talk about a few series here beyond the box score. Let's take a look at this Rockies and Red Sox series. Pretty disappointing for the Red Sox to come away with a split. When Chris Sale strikes out 17, you probably want to win that game. But it was nice to see Sale looking like himself again. Obviously, you're not going to strike out 17 every game, no matter how good you're running. But now we were seeing the last 2 or 3 starts, Sale kind of getting back into his own, sort of becoming that guy that we expect him to be. Seems like he was just fine. Maybe it was a dead arm early in the season. And when you think about the optics of saying a guy has a dead arm, it's a doomsday scenario for a lot of people out there because they don't understand necessarily what a dead arm means. And really it's just a guy not having that full feeling. Maybe it's a fatigue thing, something like that. Seems like that was the case for Sale here. Keep in mind, Boston pitching way deep into the playoffs last year, had the injury in August, came back, was kind of babied a little bit in the lead into the playoffs. Then you go from, maybe from 60 to 90 from a miles per hour standpoint, so to speak, for Chris Sale. And sometimes it's tough getting back into it a little bit. Maybe that was the problem for him. Seems like he's just fine at this point in time. What I was impressed with here in this Red Sox Rockies series is that, the Red Sox bullpen, Brandon Workman did struggle a little bit in that game on Monday, or on Tuesday, I should say. But Matt Barnes pitching well, Ryan Brazier pitching well. Maybe the Red Sox just need some reinforcements rather than an overhaul. I think the bullpen's kind of settling in a little bit. I think Alex Cora is an exceptional manager, so he can navigate his guys through those leverage situations. This is a big deal for Boston because I was very concerned about that bullpen coming into the season. If Sale settles down, Price comes back, Rodriguez is looking better. Again, he struck out 10 in his start, even though he gave up 5 runs. Porcello is a reliable innings eater type of guy. I think the Red Sox are gradually coming into their own a little bit here with the bullpen, with the rotation figuring it out, and then the lineup, which, as I've talked about here for the last several weeks, something I expected some positive aggression from. We're kind of seeing that now at this point in time. The Red Sox are really gradually putting it all together. Now, obviously, you would have liked them to take advantage of the Yankees and the situations that they've been in, but I still think this is a 3-horse race in the East. I still think that the Rays will come back to the pack just a little bit. I think the Red Sox are in okay shape right now, navigating through the first 40 games of the season here. I thought Kyle Freeland was pretty impressive in a tough road environment. Did give up 3 solo home runs, did walk 3 guys, but struck out 7 over 6. For Freeland to go out there to Fenway Park, get a little bit of confidence, pitch pretty well, I think it's a pretty good indication that he's a guy that we can expect to settle in here as we go through the summer months. Then Eduardo Rodriguez, Herman Marquez game, we had the under in that one yesterday, 16-1 strikeout to walk ratio, but those two guys struggling with command a little bit, giving up some hits and some runs there. Excuse me. So that game's still going over. But again, that 16-1 strikeout to walk ratio, a sign that both of those guys are throwing the ball pretty well at this point in time. The Dodgers, with a sweep of a quick 2-gamer from the Padres. We saw Chris Paddock struggle for the first time at the big league level. He did not mince words in his post-game interviews, vowing to bounce back, saying you're going to want to watch me next start. Love that kind of confidence, but we'll see. Sometimes when you're a young guy and maybe you lose that release point a little bit, he didn't lose any of his swagger, that's for sure, but you add a little bit more pressure to yourself. Paddock, not a guy I'd probably want to look to back here in his next start, but obviously a guy that has the goods and looks like a legitimate, potentially elite-level starter here for the Padres. But what we did see here in this series from the Dodgers is that Clayton Kershaw and Kenta Maeda were very efficient. And I keep coming up with things I don't like about this Padres lineup. One of them here is that when they face strike throwers, when they face really efficient guys that locate well, they're going to struggle. And overall, they struggle as it is. They only had 7 at-bats with a runner in scoring position in this series. But, Kershaw throws a lot of strikes. Kenta Maeda throws a lot of strikes. The Padres don't walk a whole lot anyway, but at least they can get themselves into some advantageous hitters counts against guys that maybe are a little bit more erratic. When they face guys that are going to be 60 to 65% strike throwers, it's real tough for them. And I just keep finding things I don't like about this Padres offense. And I've talked about this already, but as bullpen attrition sets in for them, as their starters reach new inning thresholds, and some of these guys are going to have to be protected. They're going to protect a Chris Paddock. Nick Margevicius, they're going to try to protect him as the season goes along. Joey Lucchesi, we'll probably see his workload increase. But for the Padres here, as that attrition sets in, will this offense be able to overcome and sort of, put them in better positions in July, August, and September? I don't know if that's going to be the case. So like I said, I think the Padres, when we get to the second half here, we're still about 2 months away from that. When we get to the second half, I probably will be looking at their adjusted season win total, and we'll be looking to go under it. And as we just keep seeing these workloads build up for these guys, I got something that you definitely want to keep in mind. The Brewers taking 2 of the first 3 from the Phillies. 4th game in that series is today. We did have the Phillies on Monday with Aaron Nola on the bump. He did not pitch well at all, but the Phillies did wind up winning that bullpen battle. Then the Brewers win Tuesday and Wednesday 6-1 and 5-2. Brewers with 40 at-bats with a runner in scoring position in the first 3 games of this series. The Phillies with only 23. This Brewers offense is really back on track again now with Christian Yelich back. Lorenzo Cain's been on base 9 times in 3 games. So Craig Counsell's patience with him is really starting to pay off. Yeah, Travis Shaw's in the tank, but Jesus Aguilar's starting to hit again. They called up Keston Hiura. Keston Hiura is a guy that's going to be a great fit in this lineup. Tremendous hit tool, uses the whole field. Great fit here. They can move Mike Moustakas back to third, let Travis Shaw kind of figure some things out a little bit, protect Hiura in some of those games where he's got a tough matchup. The Brewers, again, look like a team that's here to stay. The rotation has kind of had its ups and downs. Zach Davies is a regression candidate pitching today. They've had to go back to Chase Anderson in the rotation. Corbin Burns didn't really work out. They've got him back in a bullpen capacity now. But they've got so much talent and so much of a plan. They can figure this thing out. And they've figured it out quite well already here. And with Cain and Yelich going at the top of the order, they're a very dangerous offensive team. Now they're even deepening the lineup. With a guy like Hiura, I think that they probably get a shortstop upgrade offensively for Orlando Arcia at some point. Or maybe they just go with him and take the defense that he provides. This Brewers team, they're legit again. And we're going to get to a situation again this season where people don't buy in. Where people, for a prolonged stretch of time, fade the Brewers. And I just don't think it's going to be valuable again. I just don't think it's going to be profitable or equitable to do that again this season, because this is a team that is here to stay. They've got the bullpen figured out yet again. Craig Counsell just gets it. This front office just gets it. The player development staff just gets it. They're a legit team. And I know people are going to want to go against them, and specifically they'll want to go against Zach Davies, and I certainly understand that. But a long-term fade of the Brewers day in and day out is not going to work. And when you see what they're able to do with their balance, with the talent that they have in the system, and they've got some higher upside pitching coming up through the pipeline once again. This is just a legitimately good team. And for the Phillies here, they're still an inconsistent team. They've got talent in the starting rotation. They've got a pretty decent bullpen. They've obviously got a lot of talent in the lineup. They haven't maximized it yet. And really, this is kind of a thing with all of the teams in the National League East here so far. Nationals, tons of talent, can't put it together. The Mets, a lot of talent, can't put it together. Phillies, same thing. The Braves, as their youth movement continues, maybe they're the team that does wind up keeping their heads above water here on a more consistent basis. But all 4 of these NL East teams, so much more talented than a lot of the teams they're going to play, just inconsistent. The Brewers, just so balanced that they overcome the lack of top-end talent that they have. They've got Josh Hader, they've got Christian Yelich, they've got Lorenzo Cain. But as far as top-end talent goes, they don't have a ton of it. But they're just so consistent in so many areas of the game. They're able to get by. That's what they've done here so far in this series against the Phillies. And obviously, we'll see how Thursday's game goes. But with that Keston Hiura call-up, a lot of those happening now. Vlad Guerrero Jr. comes up. Brendan Rodgers getting the call now for Colorado. Austin Riley getting the call yesterday for the Braves. Oscar Mercado came up for the Indians. Not that he's a Super 2 consideration or anything like that, but a lot of these prospects now graduating to the big league level. Super 2 deadline has passed. These teams will get an influx of talent to help fill some of those negatives that they've had. For example, the Rockies here with Brandon Rodgers at second base, Garrett Hampson and Ryan McMahon have not gotten the job done. Take an elite hitting prospect, a guy who played shortstop as a natural fit at second base. Now you've got, Rodgers, Story, and Arenado around the infield. I mean, this is a legit big league infield for the Rockies here, defensively and offensively. If you get Charlie Blackmon going consistently, if you get David Dahl consistently healthy, the Rockies offense can make some noise here as we go forward. They just haven't had the pitching so far. We'll see if that changes for them here over the next little while. But Brendan Rodgers, a guy I'm very excited to watch play with MLB.tv here over the next little while. One quick note I want to make here is that favorites, according to Sports Insights, are 130 and 68 in the month of May here so far, plus 19.37 units. This is what we typically see in Major League Baseball. April is the month of underdogs. May through August, the months of favorites. The talented teams are starting to settle in. We're starting to figure out where these teams are at this point in time. Not a big surprise to see favorites doing so well in the month of May here. Wasn't a big surprise, I guess, to see underdogs doing as well as they did in April. But now is the time where favorites start to win. Those big money line favorites start to come in. That angle that we've talked about over the last 4 years, it's been very, very profitable with minus 181 or higher favorites. Money line parlays start to come into play. This is not a big surprise. This is a development that we all should have expected, and we'll obviously see how that plays out throughout the rest of the month. I want to throw out just some random notes for you here today, some things I kind of observed looking around Baseball Reference and Fangraphs, some things that can have some betting impact, some things that can have some live betting impact as well for you here. So we'll look at the extremes for records in one-run games thus far. The Giants are 11-4. The Brewers are 8-3. The Rays are just 2-7 in one-run games, which is very surprising with the strength of that bullpen. The Angels are 3-9 in one-run games. The Royals 3-9 in one-run games as well. And what we'll start to see here as sample sizes increase is that these teams that fare well in one-run games or don't fare well in one-run games will start getting bet on or against. Because you'll start to see these Pythagorean win-loss outliers. And remember, Pythagorean win-loss is a standings metric based on run differential. If you're good in one-run games, the Giants, for example, 11-4 in one-run games, well, that's +7 in run differential. +7 in run differential typically equates to about 2.5 or 3 wins if you really want to stretch it out. But that's +7 wins for the Giants. So you'll see some of these teams that have these Pythagorean win-loss outliers take money on or against based on how lucky they've gotten from that run differential standpoint. Usually that's indicated in the one-run games department. So that'll be something you want to watch for here as we go forward. Speaking of Pythagorean win-loss, the biggest differences here, the Pirates are +6 in Pythagorean win-loss. The Tigers are +5. So those are two teams that the market will probably be against here in the near future if things continue to trend that way. As far as the teams that have gotten unlucky, the Reds are -6 in Pythagorean win-loss. The Royals -5. And again, the Royals 3-8 in one-run games here so far. Now, if we look at base runs differential versus actual record, base runs can be found over at Fangraphs as a standings metric based on expected run differential. Base runs takes context out of the equation, so it essentially eliminates sequencing. So I've used this example before. I will continue to use this example. If a team goes strikeout, strikeout, home run, single, single, strikeout, that's 1 run. If a team goes single, single, home run, strikeout, 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 that's 3 runs. Same 6 outcomes. The difference is how the outcomes were sequenced. So that's what base runs does. It takes all of the context-neutral outcomes into account and then spits them out into a run differential with runs scored per game, runs against per game. then essentially uses Pythagorean win-loss to figure out what the record would be based on that run differential. So the teams that are a little bit of underachievers here in the base runs department, the Royals, -5, the Reds, -4, the Astros and the Rays, also -4. The Rays with that one-run record kind of playing a role there. The Astros are just such a dominant team that they wind up being an outlier in this department more often than not. But the Astros so good. They're just dominating teams. And they got off to maybe a little bit of a slower start here, but now they've really hit their stride. So that's a team that I would expect to continue playing at this type of level. As far as the overachievers go, the biggest overachiever in base runs record versus actual record is 3 games. The Tigers, Pirates, Brewers, Phillies, and Indians, the 3 teams there. The Phillies offense is overachieving from a sequencing standpoint, according to base runs, wherein they've scored 5.05 runs per game. Base runs has them down for 4.74 runs per game. So these are essentially outliers with men on base, men in scoring positions, stuff like that. The Brewers are an overachiever because of that one-run record. The Pirates are actually plus 29 in run differential per base runs versus actual. And by plus 29, I mean, I think it's minus 46 to minus 17. So they should be 29 runs better from a base run standpoint than they actually are, which leads me to believe that obviously offensively, they've had some difficulties cashing in runners, and they haven't done a very good job stranding guys on the pitching side. Let's look at some other standings outliers here. The Pirates, we'll go back to them, 5-14 against teams with a 500 or better record. They are 16-5 against teams with a losing record. And we will see this. We will see teams that beat up on the bums and struggle against the good teams. The Pirates, one of those teams here so far. The Yankees, 6-7 against teams 500 or better, 20-9 against teams with a losing record. Mariners, a similar story, but they have some very extreme splits. Seattle is 5-19 against teams 500 or better. They are 17-4 against teams with losing records. That is an astonishing contrast right there. So the Mariners, when they play bad teams, are a good team to bet on. When they play decent or good teams, they're a good team to fade. One other really interesting standings note here, the Arizona Diamondbacks were off to a great start at 20, have played 39 games against teams 500 or better. They've only played 5 games against teams with a losing record. So the Diamondbacks playing a lot of good teams, holding their own, haven't had a chance to beat up on the dregs and the stiffs out there. But of course, now Zach Greinke going for an MRI, David Peralta hurt, Taijuan Walker with a setback in his rehab. So the Diamondbacks could have some injuries to deal with here. Greinke would be an especially tough one. An oblique would take him out 4 to 6 weeks. Then, of course, you've got the rehab starts, getting back into rhythm. You essentially lose 2 months with an oblique. So hopefully that's not the case here for Zach Greinke. But again, here as we see, they've played a lot of good teams. They've only played 5 games against teams with losing records. From a live betting standpoint here, a couple of things I wanted to mention for you. Teams leading after 5 innings this season are 466 and 75. So I went through this and I looked at some teams that maybe had some outliers, things of that sort. How about this? The Astros are 21-0 when they lead after 5 innings this season. The Cardinals are only 18-5. The Dodgers only 19-5. I believe 5 losses, the most that I saw, including the Pirates, who are just 11-5 when they lead after 5 innings. That should not be the case with the bullpen that they have. So 5 losses, the most I think I've seen for any team here leading after 5 innings. The Cardinals, Dodgers, and Pirates, 3 of those teams. The Marlins have only led after 5 innings 9 times this season. They are 6-3 in those games, tied in 7 of those games. They've been trailing in 25 games after 5 innings. They are 1-24 in those games. How about the Giants? They've only led after 5 innings in 11 games, tied for 7, behind in 23. The Giants have been outscored 46-6 in the first inning this season. That's a mind-blowing number. 46. They've only scored 6 first-inning runs on the season here in 41 games. That's awful. They've given up 46 runs. How about the Mets? 14-0 with a lead after 3 innings here on the season. So the Mets, when they get off to a decent start, they've been able to take advantage. They just haven't gotten off to a whole lot of decent starts so far this year. If you want to see proof that the opener is working, how about this? The Tampa Bay Rays have allowed 6 runs in the second inning this season. They've played 41 games. They've played 41 second innings. They've allowed runs in 2 of those 41 second innings. You got 5 runs in one of them, 1 run in the other one. They've allowed runs in 2 of 41 second innings this season. The opener works. I don't know how more teams don't look at this and say, let's not start our shitty guys at the back end of the rotation. Let's start with an opener and then go from there. 6 runs allowed in the second inning. And again, these second innings, yeah, you've got Blake Snell, you've got Charlie Morton, you've got Tyler Glass now. Okay, I get it. But there are other second innings. Yanni Chirinos, Jalen Beeks, Ryan Yarbrough. These aren't elite level dudes. There's guys that fit well with that opener concept. Again, they've allowed runs in the second inning twice in 41 games. It's crazy. The Kansas City Royals have won one game when trailing any time after the second inning. So the Royals, when they get behind early, they're pretty much behind for the rest of the game. And this does make sense because a lot of their offense predicated on stealing bases. Well, when you're trailing in a game, you don't really want to take the chance of giving up outs on the base paths. So the Royals have won one game when trailing any time after the second inning. One other angle here from a live betting standpoint, biggest gaps in OPS, on base plus slugging percentage, allowed first time through versus the second time through. Now, league average the first time through for a starting pitcher is 702 for OPS against. The second time through, it's 771. So the average jumps 69 points from the first time through to the second time through. How about some of these outliers? The Minnesota Twins, first time through their OPS against 575. The second time through, 742. The Cubs OPS against first time through, 585. Second time through, 765. The Rockies OPS allowed the first time through, 643. The second time through, 1.028. That's dead last in Major League Baseball. And then the Cardinals with a 662 OPS against the first time through and a 923 OPS against the second time through. So the Twins, Cubs, Rockies, and Cardinals, all teams you want to look to fade from a live betting standpoint early on in games, whether they have the lead or they don't. Their starting pitchers are struggling the second time through the order relative to the first time through the order. So Twins, Cubs, Rockies, and Cardinals, all teams that you may want to look to live bet against or maybe look to play first fives on with those 4 teams because they're at least going to get you into the third inning in decent shape. Obviously, we'll see what happens after that, but at least they're going to get you to that third inning in decent shape because their starters doing a good job the first time through, struggling the second time through. Now, there are a handful of opposites here where the first time through has been worse than the second time through. How about the Cincinnati Reds? A pretty decent 692 OPS allowed the first time through, but a 571 OPS allowed the second time through. Their pitchers are making phenomenal adjustments over the course of the game. Maybe this is a coaching thing. Maybe this is a game planning thing. Maybe throwing a lot of fastballs early in the game to set up breaking stuff the second time through. That was an astonishing stat that I found here today. Again, the Reds, 692 OPS allowed the first time through, 571 OPS allowed the second time through. The Marlins, their pitchers struggled to settle in, 781 OPS the first time through, but a 671 OPS the second time through. Young guys figuring out lineups a little bit, Caleb Smith, Trevor Richards, guys like that. Maybe that has something to do with it. But again, in-game adjustments for the Marlins, very good on the pitching side. The Brewers, this doesn't shock me at all. First time through, 817 OPS. Second time through, 698 OPS. So they improve pretty dramatically as the game goes along. Then finally, the A's with an 800 OPS allowed the first time through, 704 the second time through. So again, live betting angles here. Twins, Cubs, Rockies, Cardinals, maybe a live betting fade. Reds, Marlins, Brewers, A's. Maybe a team you want to look at if they're trailing early on in the game. Quick look at the exit velocity update here. League batting average 525. Top 5 here, the Diamondbacks 602, down 3 points from last week. Mariners 575, down 16 points from last week. So that Mariners offensive regression has settled in a big way. Rockies up into the top 5, 568. Astros 566. They're up 7 points. Yankees 558, down 11 points. We're going to stop doing the exit velocity update here pretty soon because we know who the outliers are. A lot of teams coming into the expected range now at this point in time. The bottom 5 here, the Marlins 466, up 7 points. Tigers 466, down 20. Mets 476, down 1. Blue Jays 482. They get into the bottom 5 this week. Giants and Red Sox 490. The Red Sox up 3 points from last week. Again, I still expect their offense to be a positive regression candidate. League WOBA, batted balls 95 plus miles per hour, 664, down 3 points from last week. Again, the Mariners showing up here, 791, but down 21 points from last week. Their regression is definitely happening. Diamondbacks at 786, they're down 6 points. Astros 746, they're up 17. Rockies get into the top 5 at 731. And the Twins to 728, they're up 4 points. The Marlins down 6 points to 519. Tigers down 15 points to 566. Pirates down 3 points to 591. Blue Jays down to 598. They're in the bottom 5. I pinpointed the Blue Jays as a regression candidate. That has definitely happened. Hopefully, you've been fading them here of late. And the Mets up 9 points to 603. Still looking at the Mets as a positive regression team. Still looking at the Red Sox to continue their positive regression. But the Mets, again, that team that I've kind of keyed in on here a little bit as we go forward. Take a look down the lines here. Talking about some line moves dating back to Monday, since I didn't do Monday's show. Saw some Astros money hit the board. That was against Matt Boyd and the Tigers. I agreed with that move. The price was just too low. Matt Boyd or not, that price was just too low. Brad Peacock going for the Astros there. Astros took money in that game and throughout that series, and they're on a tear once again. Saw a big fade of Jose Barrios on Monday, which was pretty interesting. Barrios has some substantial home road splits, not just this season, but for his career. He was at home in that start against Tyler Skaggs and the Angels. Money coming in against Jose Barrios, so we'll watch for that in his next start. Saw Shane Bieber money hit the board against the White Sox. Shane Bieber is an ex-WOBA regression candidate, but Reynaldo Lopez, just that bad. The market's fading Reynaldo Lopez a lot. I would expect that trend to continue here as we go forward. Tuesday, we saw money come in against Kyle Hendricks and the Chicago Cubs to back Tanner Roark and the Cincinnati Reds. We also saw the same thing on Wednesday with Sonny Gray taking money for the Reds against Yu Darvish. A lot of Reds money here of late. Market has isolated the Reds as a positive regression candidate. Again, -6 in Pythagorean win-loss, -4 in base runs. The Reds are a team that should get better based on the standings metrics that are out there. And, of course, based on just their simple offensive regression, the market is buying in and is backing them pretty frequently here. And they're doing so again on Thursday with Luis Castillo on the mound against Jose Quintana. Also on Tuesday, we saw Brandon Woodruff and the Brewers take money. Not a big surprise there. What I was surprised to see is money come in against Noah Syndergaard. Noah Syndergaard, a massive regression candidate in that ex-WOBA department, should be much better than he's been so far. He was dominant in that start. I would expect money to hit the board on Syndergaard here in his next outing this weekend. So money hit the board on Carlos Carrasco. Again, another ex-WOBA guy. I tell you this, multiple shows in a row now. StatCast over at BaseballSavant.com, leaderboards, expected pitching statistics. Then you go to that ex-WOBA category, see who's a positive regression candidate, see who's a negative regression candidate. That's where the money is coming in. Back to our regularly scheduled Shelby Miller fade on Tuesday. And also on Tuesday, the Giants used the opener with Nick Vincent as the opener there in that one. They took a little bit of money in that spot with Vincent as the opener against the Toronto Blue Jays. So Wednesday, I mentioned that Sonny Gray money and the Reds money against Yu Darvish. Mike Soroka got faded in the betting market. It looks like Mike Soroka is overpriced now at this point in time. That was Michael Wacha and the Cardinals in that one against the Braves. We see this with young pitchers. When they pitch really well, 3, 4, 5 starts in a row, they get overpriced. The quant crowd will look to fade them a little bit. That was the case there with Mike Soroka on Wednesday. So Justin Verlander steamed into a bigger favorite, up to an almost $4 favorite for his start against the Tigers. Saw money come in against the Blue Jays and Edwin Jackson in his start for his 14th Major League team. Thursday, pretty quiet outside of that Luis Castillo money. We're going to have some negative closing line value on that one because I played the Cubs and Jose Quintana for the first 5. So there was that. That's a 6:40 first pitch tonight. So if you listen to this before then, that's one of the plays in today's article. I'm also on the under in the Pirates and Padres. Look, Trevor Williams avoids barrels and home runs. It's really the only way the Padres score. Eric Lauer off of that bad Coors Field start, but he takes on a Pirates lineup that's bottom of the league against lefties. Very, very bad in that split. 2 solid bullpens here, despite what the Pirates have done in terms of holding leads. I like the under in that one. It was under 8 when I got it. It was under 7.5 this morning. So some over money coming in that one. I disagree with that line move. So take the under in that Pirates versus Padres matchup. All right, let's preview a handful of series here for the weekend, 5 of them to be exact. Rays and Yankees to start things off at Yankee Stadium. We'll see an opener for the Rays on Friday. He'll go up against CC Sabathia. We'll see if that's Ryan Stanek. We'll see who the bulk reliever is. But we know that money comes in against CC start after start after start. I'll probably end up on the under for this one, depending on who the bulk reliever is. CC grades very well in the exit velocity metrics this season. I don't know why people continue to fade him, but I think it's a little bit unfair. I think CC's a much better pitcher than the betting market seems to think. Blake Snell, Masahiro Tanaka Saturday, Charlie Morton, and to be determined on Sunday. Tough to get a read on this series, obviously, with the opener Friday. Yankees having to figure something out on Sunday. I think we see Rays money in all 3 games of this series. That would not shock me at all. So if you like Tampa Bay, get them early in this series there at Yankee Stadium. The Brewers and the Braves. Well, Ulysses Chassin, Kevin Gausman Friday, Chase Anderson, Max Fried on Saturday, Brandon Woodruff, Mike Foltynewicz on Sunday. Mike Foltynewicz having a lot of problems with good lineups here of late. The Brewers certainly have that. I would expect Woodruff money to hit the board on Sunday for that Woodruff versus Foltynewicz game. Ulysses Chassin, I think, is in a tough spot Friday night. May look to play the Braves in Friday night's game. But the Brewers with a big bullpen advantage here for the late innings. And again, I just talked about it. The Brewers struggling the first time through the order from a starting pitcher standpoint. Better the second time through. Maybe some live betting opportunities here where the Brewers do have a bullpen advantage over the Braves. Twins and Mariners. Here's the 4-game series I talked about at the lead in today's show. Michael Pineda, Eric Swanson tonight. I do have a play on that game in my article over at bangthebook.com. Martin Perez, Marco Gonzalez on Friday. Jose Barrios on the road against Wade LeBlanc on Saturday. Kyle Gibson, Yusei Kikuchi on Sunday. Kikuchi will throw 1 inning in either this start or his next start. The Mariners want to go about every 5 starts with him throwing 1 inning. This will be his 4th start in that span. However, he's pitched into the 7th and into the 8th in each of his last 3 starts, I believe. So they may opt to go with it here as opposed to down the line a little bit. Keep an eye out for that because there will be a Kikuchi start here coming up where he's only going to throw 1 inning. You don't want to get caught with your pants down in that one. Wade LeBlanc coming off the shelf to face Barrios, who has those big home road splits. But these are 2 teams going in opposite directions. The Twins have hit a good stride. The Mariners are on the skids. I mentioned their offense regressing quite a bit. This could be an interesting series for the Twins to go out and make a statement. Maybe a Twins series price, something I do like a little bit here in this spot this weekend. Astros and the Red Sox. Garrett Cole, Rick Porcello on Friday. Corbin Martin makes his 2nd Major League start on Saturday against Hector Velasquez. Martin went 5 1/3 last time out, struck out 9, looked really good. Another one in that line of Astros pitching prospects. And then Brad Peacock and Chris Sale on Sunday. Let's see if Chris Sale is for real here, taking on a very elite Houston Astros lineup, even without Jose Altuve. We'll probably see that Garrett Cole steam on Friday, so look for that tomorrow, on the overnights for tomorrow's games. Finally, one more game to touch on here, the Cubs and the Nationals. Cole Hamels, Max Scherzer Friday, John Lester, Steven Strasburg Saturday. Look, I'm going to be on the Nationals on Saturday. I'm going to lose money fading John Lester again. For the love of God, I hope it happens here in this spot. It's got to happen at some point. Huge X-Woba regression candidate. Look, I mean, I understand, and this is why some people have a problem with the regression analysis handicapping, betting on things you expect to happen in the event that maybe they don't. But, man, John Lester cannot continue this. I just can't see it happening. Nationals, this is the better split for them against lefties. So, look, I'm going to be on them in some capacity on Saturday. I just hope it works out for me. Then Kyle Hendricks and Jeremy Hellickson on Sunday Night Baseball. The Nationals head up to Queens to take on the Mets. The Cubs host the Phillies. So no real situational angles for Sunday night's game unless there's a long rain delay or something like that. Those two teams do not have Monday off. But tons of talent here. Two untrustworthy teams. Except for, like I said, I'm going to fade John Lester on Saturday. So let's just hope that works out for me. We'll have a UFC preview for you on Friday with Christian Pina. Make sure you check out our Preakness podcast preview with Brian Blessing that we recorded on Wednesday. I had a real good time with that. The post positions have been drawn since then. So check out my Preakness preview over at bangthebook.com. Also a preview for the Black Eyed Susan Stakes coming up on Friday. Well, that'll do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And remember that you will never strike out when you're in the bettor's box.